Okay, so the meeting is called to order for the May 8th Citizens Remuneration Review Committee. Clerk, has the roll been taken?
Through the chair, roll call's been taken.
Okay, are there any declarations of conflict of interest? Seeing none, there are no delegations or presentations on today's agenda. So we'll now move to items for consideration. May I get a mover and a seconder to place item 4.1 on the floor, a report, follow-up report for the council remuneration. Moved by Virginia and seconded by Brenda. Any opposed? It's so placed on the floor. So I will, I guess, turn it over to staff to comment.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just going directly to the analysis section of the report. 5.1 deals with the market compensation. In terms of the comparators in the report, we had included Hamilton as part of the average. Excuse me. And so I thought it might be prudent to take a look at what that average might be, excluding Hamilton, since they have full-time counselors. So the average municipal comparator salary for counselors would be $43,301 versus $48,554 from the previous report. And the median would be $42,622, excluding Hamilton, versus the previous $45,980. And in this section, I also referenced the hourly rate as requested by one of the members of this committee. We did take a look at the hours of work for part-time counselors based on the information from the previous survey that was done of council back in 2021. So that information has been provided to this committee, including the survey questions that were asked back in 2021, slightly amended. But that's in essence the document that was appended to the report. And then the last piece of information that we provided in the report was the meeting attendance and stipend information. This was based on a report that was done for City Council earlier this year. And there were two appendices to this report for this particular committee. One was the report on the attendance and the other one was information on the actual attendance. So that's pretty much it, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any questions from we've got one from Virginia?
Just under your analysis, do we have any idea of, like, we came up with this equation of 15 hours per week or whatever for our counselors. What are the other municipalities based on? Because we're not comparing necessarily apples to apples.
So through the chair, the information that we have on the comparators is the annual salary. Don't have any other information in terms of their hourly rates or their number of hours that it's based on, but we could certainly go back to those market comparators and gather that additional information if they're willing to share it.
I'm definitely interested in that to try and, because their salaries, while they're higher, their annual salaries, it may be lower depending on what their time commitment has been allotted to them or however they've figured out their timing. So if they will share that, that would be awesome.
We'll see what we can do.
Yeah.
Do we need a formal motion for that?
I think it could be part of D, right? DI.
Okay. I'll just market comparators hourly. Okay. Hourly.
And as a follow-up,
And follow-up.
can you remind us how it was determined 15 hours for counselors, our counselors? I can't remember, I'm sorry.
Through the chair, I don't recall off the top of my head. I think it had something to do with the transition to a bi-weekly pay period. And we just took the salary and then did a conversion to see what might be reasonable as a part-time counselor. I'm not sure it was based on any specific best data.
Haven't I read that somewhere? I think I've read that somewhere.
That was in the previous report.
In the previous report, yeah.
Yeah.
That's why it happened, and that was the last major change, was due to the transition of the city's payroll system.
Yeah, that was, yeah.
Exactly.
I just wondered what that was based on, and 15 hours wouldn't constitute part-time work in my mind, but I'm maybe it is. I know you said it's up to 24 hours for part-time.
That's correct.
That's almost like casual to 15 hours, but I don't know anymore, right? Everything's so different, but it just seems very low, that part of it. I just didn't know if a consultant had suggested that or if that was based on what counselors or any other surveys that had happened. Okay.
Any other questions from the committee? Brenda?
Looking at the market comparison, it seems to be different from the previous report that we got. Because Brantford isn't that low according to the survey done in 2023. But my main question is if I could go to the benefits. For part-time work, maybe it's just me, but I feel like the benefits are pretty extensive. And by that, I mean, not all of the, just looking at the other municipalities, some provide extensive benefits like we do, but not all of them. And I know that there's probably a few counselors that we have that are receiving pensions from their employment that they're retired from. Is there a reason why they get such extensive benefits? Is that even something this committee has?
Sorry, I was gonna wonder, I think is that the benefit or the total compensation package is outside of the scope of this committee's work, as I understand it.
Yeah,
No, no,
it's
okay,
part of this
Okay.
particular committee.
Okay.
Yes.
I thought it was
Okay,
part
fair
of
enough.
it, yeah, but
So a previous decision, I would suggest that a previous decision by a similar committee and then approved by council recommended that slate of benefits based on it's probably very similar to the payment arrangement, and that it was set up to us to be compared, like it's the easiest thing. It's a separate from an HR perspective, would be they're treated as part-time employees, so it's easier to administer that than to set up an entire category for 10 people.
If I could,
Yeah,
Mr. Chair,
yes.
just to add on what you indicated. The honorarium bylaw is really what drives that particular piece of remuneration. And at some point in time, when that bylaw was enacted, it was decided at that point to provide the benefits that are provided to our exempt staff.
Okay.
another question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Through the chair, looking at the expenses, and I'm looking at, I don't know if everybody saw the report in the expositor about the remuneration paid to everyone. What memberships are reimbursed for? Like what, aside from conferences and seminars, what are memberships? What are they referring to when they say that? Does anybody know?
Further into that report, because the report provided more information than what was picked up by the expositor in that article.
Oh, that never happens. Sorry, that was my outside voice.
I just hit send on our media release for tomorrow. So
Oh, there you go.
I'm gonna we'll test your assumption.
Mr. Chair, I have my hand up.
Okay.
Go ahead and
Go on.
come back. To
Okay. Well, go ahead. Go ahead.
So I just wanted to provide a little bit of background to some of the committee members here. I don't think it's unreasonable that 15 hours is considered part-time in a variety of different companies, or let's say in the federal government specifically for certain benefits afforded to employees. Some of the minimum cutoff for some are 12, some of them are 15. So 15 in my mind is not that unreasonable. I would like the staff to give us that comparison information. How much are the other counselors based on their salary? Like how many hours are they working? So that we can have an accurate hourly wage comparison for our counselors. I would like to also provide the opinion that taking away benefits for employees, I mean, they're elected officials, but it, I think that everybody should have access to benefits, and to take them away, that they're still working, right? So for example, like the mayor's a full-time employee of the city. Why shouldn't he have that? Benefits should be afforded at every single workplace, regardless of tenure.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think it was just a question about how
Hmm.
it came to be as opposed to providing
And he
recommendations.
was-
Should he put on his camera?
Yeah, could you put on your camera from a governance management perspective?
One moment, let me figure that out.
To Mohammed.
Yeah, it's me.
Okay. Yes, we asked both remote attendees to change your name from Brantford panelist to your correct name. Thank you, Mohammed. Okay. Any additional questions to cover that? Okay, maybe back to Joel.
I'm going through the report, and as far as the counselors are concerned, there was only one $10 item classified as a membership subscription. It's gonna take me some time to go back and find out what that was, but that was a really minor item, which is likely a online subscription or something for $10.
Okay.
So there's no memberships.
Assigned to counselors.
But they are provided discretionary budget, which was probably in the first report, $3,510 annually to cover those kinds of items, but it doesn't look like any of them, with the exception of one $10 item, is using it for that purpose,
Okay,
at least in 2023.
okay, thank you.
Okay, do we have any additional questions for staff? Okay, we'll do one omnibus motion, so I think, or one motion for A and B together, but, sorry.
Yes, one more question about the attendance record. I found it quite interesting because I did my little sticks and whatnot that some are very active. This is very similar to when I was here too, right? And it's often the newer counselors that take on the more responsibility. But I mean, I think as counselors, it makes sense that they attend council and COW meetings, estimates, appointments, things like that. But of the 29 committees, standing committees, boards, advisories, task forces, Mandy does, or Council Samuel, sorry, does the most of 19, and then we go down to 10 for a few of them. And then most of them are under 7 out of 29 for their committees. And I also note that most boards and advisories are 8 or less a year for their meetings. Very few are monthly now. And the task forces are very sporadic, 2 or less in a year. So they're meeting attendance, and that is drawing less and less of their time, is what I take from that too.
All right, so what would we like to, how do we want to move forward from this? Committee members? We've got we have sort of one standing request that we wanted to wordsmith this, but we'd like staff to review market comparators, review the compensation of the market comparators to better assess the number of hours, I guess, assigned to the annual salary. Is that accurate?
One that might be really interesting is City of Peterborough, because they say casual for how they declare their employment status.
So to go to the previously,
All of them.
go to all of them,
Yeah.
or all, as many as possible.
Yeah, as
to-
many as,
number of hours assigned to the committees.
Sure, I think we were also interested in the hourly rate.
And yeah, okay, and
Yeah,
the
that's what it
hourly,
is,
okay,
yeah,
and the
yeah.
hourly
yes.
rate and
Yeah.
number of hours as opposed to, so
Mhm.
in addition to the annual salary that's already captured, what is the hourly rate and the number of hours assigned to that? Have a full apples to apples comparison. can, in the interest of moving the work of the committee forward, the survey of counselors would be perhaps the question that I had. Would there be any other comments or items missed from the survey, and could we task this to go out to the 11 elected officials as is to be reported back to staff? Then it would be once that's back in, that would sort of drive the date of our next meeting. Is that Mohammed? Yeah.
Quick question. Perhaps it may be a good idea to ask like a qualitative question along the lines of like what drives the engagement of the elected officials as well. Because like when you're talking about a reward, you also need to talk about like what are the objectives, what are you trying to incentivize? That's how compensation should be driven in my mind, is that like you're trying to drive compensation to achieve results, and the result that will ideally me as a citizen would like is that for my officials to actually be working hard to solve the issues that are important, not just to me, but to the community as well. So that might be a good question to ask, just as a qualitative optional question, is that what drives your engagement and your participation? I doubt that it's going to be something related to status. Very people are in the line of public service for that. Doesn't mean that it doesn't exist, but very few people are. So I would like to know that, like, what drives your engagement specifically, so that we can kind of target that. If the consensus amongst, so with the theory being that if the consensus is participating in the meetings and like being able to pass solutions, then we can figure out some sort of total compensation that benefits that. Just very broadly, I've been thinking about this for the last week, thinking about something like hybrid payment like method used at my credit union. So for example, the chair of the board for the credit union is paid a monthly salary, or like biweekly monthly salary. And then they because they're like closer to a full-time employee, and they receive like an honorarium per meeting on top of that. The directors on the board are paid a much smaller monthly salary, but the component that they get paid for the like those meetings and committees that they attend is bigger. So to incentivize them to actually to attend and be prepared for that as well. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about, just in terms of how to divvy up their compensation. I don't think that it's fair on the junior or like the more new counselors to pick up a lot of the work of the council, and then having like the more senior members barely attend and still getting a similar level of compensation, if that kind of makes sense.
Interesting ideas, Mohammed. To the clerk.
Yeah, through the chair, I just want to clarify that the junior counselors don't get the brunt of the work because the senior counselors make them. It's all voluntary.
Yeah.
So it's all based on their level of flexibility and what they want to take on. So it's not a senior junior dynamic that we're seeing. It's just basically based on volunteer basis. Just want to clarify that.
Okay, I understand. I'm sorry if I kind of got that mixed up. That was unclear to me.
And arguably, actually, here. So I think the one thing we could take from that is that maybe if there's a one additional spot for qualitative comment from counselors, what is your opinion? Can you succinctly state in why you ran for counselor, what you're hoping to accomplish, what are your ultimate goals? Some of that qualitative stuff I think is very interesting, allowing the respondents to provide some qualitative input into it, as opposed to just number of hours worked and yes, no. So good, that's a good idea. But yeah, I think, even to bridge the junior senior thing, I think, like as a junior counselor, my understanding is everybody gets all the junior people get calls right away to fix the problems that the senior counselors weren't fixing and were ignoring before. So of course they're keen to get reelected, and they're sitting on 18 of the 29 committees or whatever. They certainly have learned over time that that's wrong. And it also balances out, or also the question is the part-time, full-time counselors where people are using this as are unable to work full-time, or our full-time work can't sit on 29 committees that meet 3 hours on a Tuesday kind of thing. So I think that's covered in some of the other situations. So lots of variables at play in this this project. So okay, so we've got one recommendation is review market comparatives, et cetera. Second is the survey can go out with a qualitative piece added to it. Additional stuff.
Yeah, the survey says survey of counselors, so will there be a separate one for the mayor? Because I'm not certain, some of these questions and answers would relate to him, but I mean, he has staff that does constituent emails, and I don't know if we would do a different one for the mayor or not, or more in-depth for the mayor, or was there a separate one last time?
Through the chair, I think this survey is just trying to accomplish what is part-time, right? How many
Yeah.
hours the counselor is actually doing. Right now, the mayor is full-time.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so we'll go to counselors.
Will this go to, so will we send this to the mayor as well?
I thought it went to all members of council,
We could
including
send
the
it to
mayor
the
back
Let's send
in
it.
21.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll send it to all mayors of council or all members of council. It's my
So then should
Yeah.
update the title.
survey of counselors and the mayor. Or survey of members of council.
Council.
Brantford City Council.
Survey of Brantford City Council. Okay,
Then there might need to be another section just specifically for the mayor, because he might have a different perspective on his workload, and we are reviewing his salary as well. We know it's full-time, but there might be certain things that he's involved with that take more time. Maybe getting his perspective of that.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think it may be worthwhile to get like maybe specifically ask the mayor, like, how many hours are you actually working? Because it's both the hazard of guess. I've seen him in doing some of the community engagement stuff. It's probably more than 40 hours a week sometimes. So
right, and a special section for the mayor. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, yes.
I would just like to revisit, I forget who brought it up, but the question about benefits. I think that would be an interesting thing to revisit, given that they are part-time. Of course, I agree with Mohammed that they should be compensated in some fashion being part-time workers, but I think it'd be interesting to explore this a little more. Like if you look at Chatham Kent, they do a healthcare spending account, something like that. Or given that they are part-time, you could look at how different municipalities do maybe a prorated amount for, I don't know if seniority, age, or how many hours they work. But I look here and I see that getting 85% for dental. I know most full-time workers where they work who pay into their accounts get 80, 75%. Just something to consider. I don't know if we can request a further report, but I do think that'd be worthwhile to further explore.
Okay, so the request would be just for some clarity. What are we looking at?
I guess maybe just to look at the benefit packages across more municipalities across Ontario, just a little more in depth. Like I see the chart that we have here from the previous meeting and how it kind of gives us a quick synopsis, quick look at each municipality's benefits. But maybe if we could request a little more in-depth analysis of a few municipalities within Southwestern Ontario and see if what they're doing and how we could maybe implement something different for here in Brantford. Does that make sense?
Yes, yeah, we could do that.
Okay.
Okay, so
Market benefit analysis.
more, yeah, market benefit analysis. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything further?
I'm just looking
Nope.
at
Yep.
what Brenda brought in for the breakdown of honorarium and benefits paid. Like I just look at the first one, Michael Sullivan, 49,393, including 47,468 in honorarium and benefits. So
They're all different.
they're all different.
They are all different and it's the.
Is that-
get the
that's
difference,
what-
Because some of them are single, some of them are families, some of them are not contributing to the pension because they're already collecting a pension. various reasons that they could be off.
So do we have that somewhere? Like how do we know which ones took what? I guess it doesn't really matter, does it?
I suppose it doesn't,
Yeah, I'm
or-
just
yeah,
trying to talk it through and thinking, okay, does it matter?
cause no,
No.
out of the 11, out of the 10 that are
Yeah.
equal counselors, they're all gonna be,
It's just
they're
very
not gonna all
oddly
match to the
worded.
dollar, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that discretionary fund you mentioned, it's 3,000 something.
3,510.
Where did that come from? Do we know?
It was in a report quite a number of years ago where that budget was established. It has not been increased for inflation since it was put in place. We could probably go back and find the report that
Yeah, I'm
established
curious.
it.
Reminds me of like.
But
the
I
slush
gotta
fund.
remember, I gotta think it's probably 7 or 8 years ago. So their base
Mhm.
budget is for their honorarium and any statutory and other benefits that are provided for in the bylaw.
Mhm.
The $3,510 typically is used to pay for things like their cell phone usage. Perhaps tickets that they buy to events, that they want to be at, donations. They can also make a donation, perhaps to one of their neighborhood associations to run an event. But yeah.
It's,
really
but it's reportable and
discretionary.
Can we, yeah, is that a taxable benefit to them?
The $3,510 is not a taxable
Can we
benefit.
get a chart of what they spend it on?
I can provide you the report, which will categorize it a little
Mhm.
more. So that went to the finance committee in March.
Yeah.
This counts, yeah, they were just in office November 2022, right? So 2023 would be the
Yeah,
only year that's
be the
in
full
lead
one,
for this term of council.
I'd like to see who's spending what out of it, if it's possible.
Yeah, conferences as well. So conferences, seminars, training that they want to go on.
Mhm.
And, yeah, that comes out of that $3,510. I'll flip it over
Okay.
to Chris and he can.
Okay. do you need that as a recommend?
Yeah.
Okay, we're there. Okay. So, as far as we've got A to receive, B, following comments of our committee be included in the staff report. So number one, the market comparators of, as previously stated, so I'm not stated again. Number two, the survey as distributed with the qualitative stuff, which I don't have to repeat again. A market benefit analysis, and then 4 is a report on as distributed to the finance committee in March of the discretionary account spending by councilors. Are there any other items under 4.1B that we would like to discuss, review, request? Seeing none, I will call to question 4.1 A and B. All those in favor? And we're carried. Thank you. Number 5, consent items. Can I get a mover and a seconder to approve, to put the move? I see Mohammed as the mover and a seconder, Brenda. Any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor? And we're carried. Thank you. We have no resolutions. We have no notices of motion, and under our terms of our committee, the meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.
Good chair.